So here's a question that might blow your mind. What if I gave you a penny today, and then doubled it every day for the next 31 days? How much money do you think you'd have? Most people guess maybe a few $100. The actual answer? Over $10 million. $10,700,000 to be exact. Here's the thing though. On day 20, you'd still only have about $5,000. It's not until the final few days that the real magic happens. And this exact same mathematical principle is happening in your brain every single day with your habits. I'm about to share what neuroscientists have discovered about how your brain automates success, why the popular 21 days to form a habit is completely wrong, and how understanding the real science can change everything about how you approach personal growth. Because it turns out, your brain is already doing compound math. The question is whether you're making it work for you or against you. Let's start with that penny example, because it perfectly illustrates what researchers call the compound effect. Darren Hardy breaks this down in his book The Compound Effect with a simple formula: smart choices plus consistency plus time equals radical difference. But here's what's fascinating. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, found that if you get just 1% better every day for a year, you end up 37 times better by the end. 37 times. But if you get 1% worse each day, you decline nearly to zero. The problem is what Jeff Olson calls the slight edge principle. He says things that are easy to do are just as easy not to do. Going for a 10-minute walk? Easy to do. Also easy to skip. Reading 10 pages of a book? Easy to do. Easy to not do. Most of us want to jump from planting a seed straight to harvest time. We want the $10 million on day one, not the penny. But that's not how compound effects work, and it's definitely not how your brain works. James Clear puts it perfectly: it is so easy to overestimate the importance of one defining moment and underestimate the value of making small improvements on a daily basis. Your brain is designed to notice big dramatic changes and completely miss gradual ones. Which means you're probably underestimating the power of what you're already doing, good or bad. So what's actually happening inside your head when you form a habit? This is where it gets really cool. Scientists have identified something called the habit loop. It starts with a cue, which triggers a craving, which motivates a response, which provides a reward. And that reward satisfies the craving, making you want to do it again. But here's the neuroscience part that blew my mind. When you first learn something new, your prefrontal cortex has to work really hard. That's your thinking brain. But as you repeat the behavior, a different part of your brain called the basal ganglia takes over. And once the basal ganglia is running the show, the behavior becomes almost completely automatic. Dr. Asha Bauer, who's a psychologist and productivity coach, has this perfect example. She decided one day not to go to the gym after work because she wasn't feeling well. She consciously decided to drive straight home instead. But you know where she ended up? Sitting in the gym parking lot. Without her gym bag. Her automatic brain systems had literally taken over the wheel of her car and driven her to the gym, even though she had made a conscious decision to go home. That's how powerful these automated neural pathways become. Now, you've probably heard that it takes 21 days to form a habit. That's completely wrong. Researchers at University College London actually studied this and found the average is 66 days. But here's the kicker: it ranged from 18 days to 254 days depending on the complexity of the habit. The 21-day thing came from a plastic surgeon in the 1960s who noticed it took about that long for patients to get used to their new appearance. Somehow that morphed into this universal rule about all habits, which is just not true. But here's what is true: once a habit is stored in your basal ganglia, it can be triggered by cues even without much thought. Which explains why breaking bad habits feels so difficult, and why you can sometimes do things on autopilot that you didn't even consciously decide to do. This brings us to probably the biggest breakthrough in habit research in the last decade. Most people approach change completely backwards. The traditional approach is: set a goal, make a plan, use willpower, hope for the best. I want to lose 20 pounds, so I'm going to go to the gym every day and stop eating sugar. How often does that actually work long term? James Clear flipped this completely upside down. He says your identity emerges out of your habits. Every action is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. Instead of saying, I want to run a marathon, you start by saying, I am a runner. Then you prove it to yourself with small wins. You run for 5 minutes. Then 10. Each time, you're literally voting for your new identity. This isn't just positive thinking. This is how your brain actually works. Your current behaviors are simply a reflection of who you believe you are, either consciously or subconsciously. Clear puts it this way: you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Think about it. If you believe you're someone who's bad with money, you'll find ways to spend it. If you believe you're not a morning person, you'll hit snooze. But if you start to see yourself as someone who's financially responsible, or as someone who starts their day early, your behaviors naturally align. The beautiful thing is changing your identity isn't as hard as you think. 2 steps. First, decide the type of person you want to be. Second, prove it to yourself with small wins. That's it. Every time you do a push-up, you're voting for I am someone who exercises. Every time you write one sentence, you're voting for I am a writer. Every time you put money in savings, you're voting for I am financially responsible. Now, once you understand the science, there are actually 2 really effective approaches you can take, and they're quite different. The first is what I call the systematic approach. James Clear breaks this down into what he calls the 4 laws of behavior change. Make it obvious, design your environment so the cue is unmistakable. Make it attractive, pair the habit with something you already enjoy. Make it easy, reduce the friction as much as possible. Make it satisfying, give yourself an immediate reward. This works really well for people who like structure and clear frameworks. You can engineer your habits using these principles. But there's a completely different approach that's gaining traction. Anne-Laure Leconte, who's a neuroscientist and former Google executive, advocates for what she calls tiny experiments. Instead of rigid goal setting, she suggests treating your life more like a laboratory. She says, what if the most fulfilling careers actually come from embracing uncertainty and treating life more like a laboratory for experimentation? Her framework is, make a pact to stay curious, act mindfully on small experiments, learn from the results, and track your progress. It's much more flexible and exploratory. The systematic approach says, I will run every morning at 6 a.m. The experimental approach says, I'm curious about movement. Let me try running for a week and see how it feels. Both work. It really depends on your personality and your situation. Some people thrive on structure and clear systems. Others need flexibility and room for discovery. The key insight from both approaches is the same: start small, be consistent, and pay attention to what works for you. So here's what I want you to do. Right now, think about one identity you want to build. Not a goal you want to achieve. An identity. Do you want to be someone who's healthy? Someone who's creative? Someone who's learning constantly? Someone who's financially free? Pick one. Now think of the smallest possible daily action that would be a vote for that identity. And I mean impossibly small. If you want to be a reader, start with 1 page. If you want to be a writer, start with 1 sentence. If you want to be healthy, start with 1 push-up. The goal isn't the 1 push-up. The goal is proving to yourself that you're the type of person who exercises. Your brain will want to do more, but don't let it. Just focus on consistency over intensity. Remember that penny doubling example? Your brain is already doing that math with your habits. Every day, your behaviors are either compounding in your favor or against you. The science is clear: small changes, done consistently, create dramatic results over time. Not because of willpower or motivation, but because of how your brain automates success. Your basal ganglia is ready to take over. The question is, what do you want it to automate? So what's one tiny habit you're going to experiment with this week? Remember, you're not trying to change your life overnight. You're just trying to cast a vote for who you want to become. The math is on your side. Your brain is on your side. Now it's just a matter of choosing which penny you want to start doubling. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time. Word count 1/820 words. Estimated audio length 12 minutes. Format conversational podcast. Script sources cited 7 research sources integrated throughout.